Hello, everyone. Wonderful introduction. I'm Sammi, and I'm here today to talk to you about how women and other people can enter the field of security. So this talk is applicable to more than just women, and a lot of what I'm going to go over is kind of, some of it's common sense stuff, but like as soon as somebody lays it out for you, you're like, how did I not think about that before? How is this something that I didn't look for or didn't try to get into before? So what I'm going to present to you today is not all-inclusive, so I want to encourage you to come and talk to me afterwards. If you know about other resources that I can add to this, I would love to have it. I go over on the next slide a little bit about what I currently do and how that will, not only help me help others, but it can help me help you. So first I wanted to start with a little bit about me so that you can kind of understand how I came here to talk to you today. So I was born and raised in a little town in the United States called Bethlehem, and we're famous for only a few things, and they're not stellar. So one of them is Easter peeps. If you've never heard of them, definitely look up peep jousting. They're tiny marshmallows, and they're just stupid delicious. We're also famous for the Billy Joel song Allentown, which is actually written about Bethlehem. It's just Bethlehem rhymes with absolutely nothing. And last, but certainly not least, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. So my grandfather was actually his principal in high school, and so he's got a few regrets surrounding not keeping detention slips from him. But I'm happy to talk to you about that afterwards. So what makes me qualified to be in front of you here today to talk to you about how do you get into this field? How do you learn more? Honestly, along with probably a lot of people in this room, not a lot, I did not study this. So I have a degree in medieval history, and I have a master's in library and information science. So if you want to talk about how libraries are organized, how you can develop curriculum, how you can teach people to search databases, I got you. Also, medieval writ law, I love talking about it, so I'm happy to have that conversation later. So currently what I do is I am the Education and Information Management Lead for Cisco Talos. And so a lot of what that encompasses is I do a lot of just information organization internally so that people can find what they need. I help do curriculum development, so I help people that understand different things in cybersecurity, how they teach that to somebody else. Because, you may have the expertise in something, but actually understanding how to organize that to show somebody else is sometimes a little difficult. So what I wanted to talk to you about today is how women enter this field. What are support mechanisms that are available? What are things that you can start looking for in your areas to understand more about what your interests are and what you can do in security? So the first thing I want to talk about is actually how I developed this presentation. So last year, is anyone familiar with the Grace Hopper conferences? Yeah? So these conferences were developed as a mechanism for women in computing. And so these conferences, they do boot camps, they do different courses, and they teach women different things about computing. And they have a lot of women presenting about what it's like to be a female leader, what it's like for being a woman in computer science, pretty much. But one thing I noticed was severely lacking was there was nothing for women in security, which, women comprise about 25% of the computer science field, and somewhere roughly around 11 to 15%, depending on what you're looking at, are women in security. And so I thought it was very interesting and, a little saddening that that wasn't an area that was talked about. There were talks about, how do you get into different tech adjacent careers, how you get into, if you're interested in C program, Java, they've got all of these things. But, I wanted to kind of talk more about and hear more about how women do that for security. And so how many people in this room have a degree in cybersecurity? One person? Anybody with a degree in computer science? A few people? Okay. So one of the things is actually just getting people into this field, because a lot of people enter security through kind of non-conventional means. I'm a prime example, so when students ask me, they're like, how do you get here? I'm like, don't necessarily do what I did. It's not really the best method to get in there. But a lot of people come in through kind of related fields. So they come in through like IT, networking. A lot of people enter cybersecurity because they were part of the military. Some people come in through different support roles, QA kind of stuff, or they come in through sales sometimes. And so you can see a vast increase in how people are entering the fields through other STEM-related fields. So I have worked with and talked to a lot of people that entered the field through, they have a degree in chemistry, they have a degree in mathematics, we actually have somebody that I work with that has a PhD in philosophy. So if you're thinking about this, you have to kind of think about how to get into this field in a way that might not necessarily be straightforward. So one of the things that definitely needs to change with the low numbers of females in the field is that we need to start changing the pipeline. Because it's not necessarily, you can say whatever you'd like about, biases towards women, towards other minority groups. I think a lot of it is just a pipeline problem. If you don't have the applicants coming in and you don't talk to people about different ways that they can get into this field, you're just not going to have the people to hire in those positions. So recently there has been a ton of support that has come out for women, people of color, other minority groups in ways of sponsoring trainings for them, sponsoring scholarships for them for different programs, giving them time off to take different types of boot camps. And so there's definitely been a lot of good things that are happening in this area. So in the last 5 years, so a lot of what I do at work is I work with different universities on their curriculum. I work with them on what they're doing with their students. And so there has been an increase in seeing different types of programs available. So about 5 years ago, when I kind of started in this type of role, I noticed a lot of schools had a lot of policy programs surrounding cybersecurity. Which that's not necessarily a bad thing if that's what you're looking for. But there's been a big explosion in making more technical types of degrees that focus on things like, I was just reviewing a program that has an ICS and SCADA portion of their cybersecurity master's program. So there's lots of things that are changing. And so even on a low level, grade schools are now requiring not only typing, which when I was in middle school and they told me I couldn't look at the keyboard, I thought was ridiculous, but they're requiring a lot of programming, and you're seeing things in high schools where students are, being on part of red teams, or there's like cyber programs where they're teaching kids how to, do CTFs and like how to reverse things and look at things. And so it's interesting to see how that's going to change the demographics of the applicant pool in a few years. So even with those types of programs in place, there's still a disproportionate number of female graduates with computer science degrees. And so even though, those numbers are still pretty low, so you can see that they're still a little bit higher than what's in cybersecurity. And so some of the reasons for that could be that, the ways that people enter the field. So the disproportionate amount of female graduates to the women in the field, if you come in through different means, it just might not be tracked necessarily. So a lot of schools are now putting forth a great effort to recruit and retain women, to get them into their programs, to kind of diversify what they've been doing. And so a big part of that and a big help in that effort has been a lot of schools are now offering programs in formats that are a lot more flexible, a lot more online programs, evening programs. So I kind of go through a little bit more into detail about what's actually being offered a little bit later. But it's that kind of flexibility that's kind of helping push forward women to be able to learn a little bit more in this field. Again, recruitment's really important because, from the show of hands, you can see that not a lot of people are either coming into this field through, A, B, C, D. They're not, going to school, getting a degree, doing this. A lot of people are learning hands-on. They're doing things on their own. So we kind of have to take that into consideration when we're targeting getting more women into the field. So this slide is just going to be a lot for you. I am going to give everyone my slides so you can look these up later. So these are a lot of organizations that have been doing a lot to help women in the field. So these organizations, so Girl Scouts of America, I'm sure there's other international organizations that support young girls as well. So they recently put out an entire cybersecurity program. So when I was in Girl Scouts, when I was a young girl, when I was in Girl Scouts when I was a young girl, they didn't have any of that available. There wasn't even a STEM program at that point. So even in the last 15 years, they have advanced so far to have different types of badges for girls to learn about chemistry, badges for girls to learn about programming. And so I think that that's been a pretty great push there. Girls Who Code is an excellent organization that supports young women. It puts generally high school and middle school girls through boot camps. It lets them kind of explore what's out there and what they might want to be doing. And some of these other organizations, some of the best ways that they're supporting women is they are putting through mentorship programs. And so anyone can apply for those programs. And I encourage you to go to some of these websites to kind of understand what they're doing. And you can see the tandem programs that they do. They link you up with mentors where you get to have like one-on-one conversations with them about, how did you get here? What did you like? What did you want to do different? What can I be doing? So it's really fascinating and, really encouraging that these companies are doing this work. And so they're also putting on different types of seminars for women, and for others to be able to learn to do things. So if you're trying to learn, you want to learn how to do a CTF, they're doing one-on-one kind of things where they bring you in, they teach you about it, and then you actively start doing it. And so it puts women in a situation where they can do more of a hands-on, kind of learning. Some of the other things that I wanted to talk about were some of the online programs. So a lot of these are free or paid. And so one of the biggest pushes recently has been for massive open online courses. And so MIT is one of the biggest ones that pushes out content that they actually teach in their school, but it's completely for free. And MIT is the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. And their computer science program is actually one of their bigger MOOCs that they offer. And, if you just kind of Google around, you'll start finding more and more of these. There are some that they offer some of their stuff for free. Some of it's extremely affordable. So if it's just something that you're trying to look at and trying to figure out if it's something you want to do, those are great places to start. Another big one that I know a lot of people have been using, Git is a fantastic resource if you're trying to learn either something very specific. A lot of people will put out VMs, they'll put out their curriculum, and they'll kind of walk you through what to do and how to do it. And so you can kind of go through at your own pace, learn a little bit more. And so that's a pretty great place. And at least so I'm based out of Baltimore, Maryland in the US. And so there, it's a pretty big hotbed for cybersecurity. And so a lot of companies kind of use these things as recruiting tools, but they're having these free large events where, they're having people come in, look at software, kind of put pieces together, do kind of hackathon things, or one that our university near us recently did was they did, a women's only first CTF. So they wanted people with no experience to come in to learn to do these things. And so it's really encouraging that, these places have started to do that. Another great way to get interested in this is, you're already here at a BSides. That's a great place to start. And so you can actually, it's a more intimate setting. So you're not going to this giant conference with tons of people. The talks are a bit more curated, and you can actually, talk to people, learn about what they're doing, learn more about what you could be doing, and talk to people about your interests and how that might fit somewhere, or, if they know about something that, again, you don't know. So that's a wonderful place. Almost every city that I have been to has some sort of security meetup. They've got some sort of data science meetup. One of my friends found one in Baltimore recently, and she went there and ended up talking to, I don't know how popular baseball is here, but she ended up talking to the lead data scientist for the Baltimore Orioles, because baseball is literally all math. So just start looking, just kind of start digging around, start trying to figure out what it is you like to do. Do you enjoy solving big problems? Do you enjoy writing code? Do you enjoy, kind of taking something apart and figuring out how it works? Those are the types of questions you just need to start asking yourself. And, I think a lot of it is encouraging people to start doing that. And so there's tons of things for absolutely every level. It doesn't matter what you're interested in or, how little or much experience you have. There's all kinds of things. I've mentioned CTFs and hackathons. Check around in your area, wherever it is that you are. There's all kinds of seminars and workshops that are available to you. One of the more boring ones, but a very important one, is career fairs and resume workshops. So I've done a whole bevy of interesting jobs in my life, and working in HR is definitely one I don't recommend. However, it was extremely informative, and so I can't say enough good things about potentially going to a resume workshop, because it'll teach you how to look at your skills and how to apply them to what you want to be doing, because you can kind of figure out how that would apply to any position in cybersecurity. And like I mentioned before, mentor programs. Just start talking to people. Here's a great place. You're going to start to learn how people came into this field, what they've been doing, what they're interested in now. And so sometimes you'll build the friendships, you'll build the relationship networks that are going to help you kind of figure out how to learn more and to do more. And one of the things that I cannot stress enough is whatever it is that you're doing, evaluate it. Make sure that what you're trying to learn, what you're trying to do, it's worth your time and your effort. Because even if something is free, it's still costing you, whatever time you've got, to try to learn something. And so not all programs are created equal. And so like I mentioned earlier, a lot of degrees, probably about 5 years ago, were focusing a lot on policy. However, that's shifted a lot. And though policy is not a bad thing in cybersecurity, if you want to do something, like if you're interested in ICS and SCADA, a degree that's going to teach you how cybersecurity policy is written isn't going to help you get there. And so you just need to make sure that you're looking through whatever it is that's going on, that you're reading course descriptions, you're talking to other students, you're looking at what kind of graduation looks like for those types of programs. And so that's a very important place to start. So insofar, the future looks really bright. There's been a significant increase in women in the field for the past 5 years. And so with that type of change, with that type of diversity being added to the field, it's kind of creating this really good support network for newcomers. And so security has been one of the most welcoming fields that I have ever been in. And so people are very willing to accept the ways that you come in because, in this field, not a lot of people, some people don't have degrees, some people have degrees in different things, some people came through military, so people come to this field in vastly different ways. And so I think that makes for a nice melting pot of, just inclusiveness. And so a big increase in the availability of all of these online courses, the different types of programs that you can get into both in person and online, the different trainings that are available to you locally, internationally, going to conferences, those types of things. And so with that type of diversity comes, a really good high quality programs because they're now competing with a lot of other programs. A lot of places are also starting to really focus on training internally. So they're taking people that they're working with and they're kind of moving them towards, investing more into those people, having them doing trainings based on the company, paying for them to go elsewhere. And so, whatever position you're in now, start looking through your current place, start talking to people, start learning, what is the type of reimbursements that I can get, what programs are available to women. So I work for Cisco and there's different types of internal training programs for women there, which, it's pretty wonderful. And one of the bigger ones that I've come across in the last year, which has been pretty wonderful for me, and I try to tell everybody else about it. If you've never heard of No Starch Press, they put forth a lot of books that can help you learn what you want to be doing in the field. They can teach you how to do things, and they do kind of these things called humble bundles. Well, they'll put together kind of these basic sets of books where you can go forth and, you can pay. Sometimes it's whatever you want, and sometimes they're pretty cheap, $15 to $20 US. And so that, definitely kind of helps level the playing field a little bit because you can start to learn all of these things at a fairly cheap price. So the key takeaways that I wanted to make sure that you got today is, pipeline and visibility. The more that we are talking about the types of trainings, the types of things that are available, the support mechanisms for women, if those are out there and we are, kind of pushing it through, people are going to start to get more interested. People are going to start to have that background, and they're going to start to, start applying for jobs. And so if we can kind of start fixing that pipeline, we can start getting more people employed and increase the number. The diversity of programs, like I said, I don't want to go through all of the list of universities of things that I know in my head. But, if that's something you're interested in, come and talk to me, because I've got all of these things, that I would like to share to people, because I want people to know what's out there. I want them to know, what they can be doing, and that, if you're interested in, electrical engineering, there's still things for you to be doing. If you're a linguist, there are things for you in this field. And so I think the more that we talk about those types of things and the diversity of people that come into this field, the better I think we'll be able to make it. Make sure you look for support groups, look around, figure out what you want to be doing, and then just start going down that path. I think you'll be surprised if you can just start looking through things and going that way. Evaluate everything. Don't take anything just because somebody says this is the best program. Make sure it's the best program for you. I think sometimes people get too caught up in, what they think is going to be better rated. But you just need to make sure that you're going to be learning what you want to be learning. Like I said, ask around. People I have found have been generally very nice and supportive. Every time I can't do something on the computer, I've got coworkers that, they don't just do it for me. Every time I ask for help, I'm given the help. They show me how to do it. They help me make sure I can do it. And so there's a lot of stuff that I have been able to do now that I could have never have done before. So that's about it. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to take them, or, yeah.
Whoa, I have a mic.
Slow down.
Sorry, I'm too eager to hire women. What advice can you give to hiring managers to encourage more female applicants? When we do advertise positions, we only get men applying. Mm-hmm. How can we make our job adverts more appealing?
So, okay, this is a little bit of some sociology, but typically, sometimes when you put the degree requirements or you put specific job requirements on it, those types of things, sometimes people are less likely to apply for them if they think that doesn't apply to them. So sometimes those minimum requirements can deter people. So I think one of the best things you can do is kind of keep it as open and broad as you can. And so generally that will help, bring more people to the table. Yeah, I think that would be my recommendation there.
I also have a recommendation if you want to hire hackers. We see a lot of job offerings that say we are looking for a hacker who can break into doors, can break into Windows, can break into Linux, can break into everything. And it doesn't work that way because we usually focus on one little piece. So try to keep it also as narrow as possible for your expertise. Any more questions for Sammi?
Yeah. And like I said, come and talk to me. I've got all kinds of resources that I like to share to people, but I also like to learn as much as I can. So a lot of what I do, I go out and I talk to students and try to put these resources in front of them. Because I just recently did a career fair and I was talking to a young woman who was just starting out in the cybersecurity program at a university in Maryland. And, I kind of started the conversation with, what are you interested in? And, she kind of looked at me and I was like, what do you like to do? And then let me give you what I can. And she told me she's doing a computer science degree and also in electrical engineering. And she really likes, playing with the pieces. And, I kind of told her, I was like, if you're interested in security, there's tons of things out there for you. There are tons of people that are pulling apart devices and, they're not only trying to understand how the programming behind those devices works, they are understanding how it physically works. And so they can reroute things and do things. I had a coworker that he bought a camera for his dad's house and he thought, maybe this isn't the best camera. Let me try this. And he found a bunch of exploits on it and was like, oh, wow, like this was not a great camera. So that's what I always try to help tell people and start that conversation with, what do you like? What can I do to help you? Yes.
Yeah.
So another thing that I will add to the maybe advertisement is by sending basically the emails and the positions to like projects that support and cooperate and collaborate with women's like maybe Linux women, Debian women, women in AppTech, and so on. Normally, whenever we get these kind of like opening positions, you feel more like, yes, they want women here, and I can be one of them. So I think that's something important to start maybe advertising the positions within, like, I don't know, women initiative projects and mailing lists.
I would agree with that, yeah. So where I work, we're actually 26% women at Talos, which, you know, is probably one of the bigger numbers that I've seen. And it's very encouraging that, you know, the people that I work with, they, you know, they encourage us to be able to, you know, they say, you're everybody else. You can do this. Like, talk about what you're an expert at. Talk about what you like to be doing. And so the reason why, like I said, I really wanted to create this presentation was to kind of lay out some of those paths that you can go forward and some of those organizations that can support you, because, you know, people can talk about being a woman in security. However, if you don't start giving those tools to people to be able to do those things, you know, it's not going to go very well. So there are no more questions.
No more questions?
I know I went a little fast, but I will be at the Talos booth for the rest of the day. You know, come see me.
And give a big round of applause.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you very much.